Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our discussion today on business email compromise. Business email compromise is one of the most financially damaging online crimes. It exploits the fact that so many of us rely on email to conduct business, both personal and professional, too. So let's get started by introducing our speakers today. Today we're joined by security experts from NetGain and Huntress, and I'm going to let the three of them introduce themselves. Jeremy, will you kick it off, please?
Sure. Hello, my name is Jeremy Harlan, and I'm security analyst here at NetGain Technologies. Um, I have about 15 years experience in IT and cyber, and the majority of that is military background. Um, I'm actually followed by Bruce here.
Hi, morning everybody. My name is Bruce Snow. I'm a senior security engineer. I've been working in the industry a little under 30 years, ex-military, came from the healthcare vertical, focusing on virtualization and security. And I have been focused specifically on the forensic side of the security vertical for about the last 6 to 7 years. And I'll hand it over to our esteemed colleague from Huntress,
All right,
Ethan.
thanks everybody. So I'm Ethan Tancredi. I'm a sales engineer at Huntress. Been with them for 2.5 years now. I've been in the IT industry since 1996 when I was a graduate student and I needed money and somebody asked me what I knew about computers. I told them I knew enough to break them. He said, "Perfect, I'll train you." Um, I It's been an ever learning journey of asking questions. It's actually one of the reasons I love cybersecurity is because we're always asking questions, trying to get to the why and understand things. Um, so like the more inquisitive you are, the better you are at finding things. And with these two esteemed people I'm working with, we're going to be asking each other lots of questions. So it's going to be a fun conversation today.
All right, let's get started. Today we're talking obviously the billion-dollar scam. We're going to highlight what is business email compromise. I'm going to give you a little bit of context of BEC in the news, national and local. It's in our neighborhoods, impacting local businesses. Some common causes of business email compromise, including like AI's impact on social engineering. And we're talking about protecting your organization against BEC, some security best practices, as well as tools and resources that can improve your security posture. According to the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, business email compromise attacks resulted in nearly $3 billion in losses for business. I'll turn it over to Ethan.
Yeah, well, and part of that is that $3 billion in losses is to understand that this is not just a one-time yearly thing that's going. The FBI received like over 21,000 business email compromise complaints last year. So like that's an astounding number. And the average loss of a business email compromise is something like $130,000 when one of those happen. So they can be significant to a small business. I mean, we'll be talking later today about some big things in the news, but like I think the key message is that this is a crime that has been going on for years. Like it led the list of financial crimes. One was could be cyber financial crimes for years. Last year, 2023, it did get kicked off the number one only because last year there was a ton of some cryptocurrency capers that happened, and perhaps inflated value of cryptocurrency made those pop up as a higher number. But like impact on businesses, I would say BEC has the massive effect all the time.
So,
Business email compromise.
so we may have some individuals on the webinar that may be asking what exactly is a BEC. So maybe let's start with the, the the bottom layer, if you will, and let's explain what a BEC is to the audience. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, let's move on to that.
I'm going to launch a quick poll here. I'm curious to know how many of you all know what BEC is? Give me just a moment.
Good. We got people who are aware. That's nice.
That's
Always
good.
like that. Exactly.
Yeah. See, yeah, 67% of you do know. 22% of you are about to be enlightened.
Exactly.
Um,
And
business email compromise. It's a type of cybercrime where threat actors trick employees or organizations into sending money or sensitive information. They do this by impersonating high-level executives or trusted vendors via email. Jeremy, I'm
Yeah.
gonna let you have this one.
Ashley, not sure if the
slide
poll
is
might be
Oh,
still
showing.
showing.
sorry
Yeah.
guys.
No problem.
There we go. I didn't
Yeah.
realize I had.
So
Thanks.
when we say threat actors, you'll see groups like ransomware groups or even scammers. And employees can be your help desk, your accounting, or just grandma. It doesn't necessarily have to be an organization. It can be down to the individual. And they do impersonate. That's their goal. They're masking themselves and they're trying to be someone they're not. They're going to impersonate your C-level execs or a vendor or quite possibly a partner that you uh, have multiple interactions with.
Yeah, if you can
And
go ahead
it
and
is common
forward
that
the
it
next
is
slide.
an email.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So move to the next slide. I think we touched on that
Well,
one there, Ashley.
yeah.
Did
Well, and one thing I'll just say about that, Jeremy mentioned it can happen to your grandma, it can happen to people. Yeah, they're trying to rely on that trust we've developed in this communication of email, right?
Mhm.
And so, like, I'll tell you a rite of passage at Huntress is somebody getting a email or a text message from Kyle, our founder and CEO, saying, "Hey, I'm in the middle of something and I need you to help me right now. Get me something." So you need to be aware of those kind of techniques. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um,
And so you may ask, how are they carrying out these BEC scams? We alluded to it. They're spoofing an email account or website. There could be slight variations on the email address. We've encountered some investigations that we've done on our side where the domain that they were sending to looked almost identical, except they added an S in the middle of it. And when you're sending to that vendor day after day after day, it's automatic, right? You're not going to usually pay attention to, oh wow, that site was changed slightly. And upon our investigation, we saw that that site was actually being forwarded to a bad actor in France. And so, how do they do some of those things? Well, again, you're spoofing that email account. They're also doing such things as phishing, making them look like they're from a trusted sender, so they can trick or use your emotions into revealing confidential information. Typically, things that go alongside that phishing email, it could have an attachment, could be a payloaded PDF, it could be a pixel within the email that kicks off a behind the scenes malicious software install and installs software on your machine that can then keylog, take screenshots, etc. Really, where we're seeing this happen a lot is really in the accounting side of the house in most businesses, from enterprise to small to medium to mom and pop. They're looking for things such as the words billing, invoices, ACH numbers. So those are some of the things that these guys are looking at. So you may ask, looking at the timeline at a timeline of how do they do it? So they start with something called OSINT. They're identifying the target. They're running tools that will go out and gather across the dark web, across a ton of OSINT websites, databases, to figure out who is the target that I can go after at this business.
Yeah, and Bruce,
They're
like that
looking at
OS,
LinkedIn.
yeah, and OSINT, I was going to say that, like it sounds, oh, OSINT, what's that? They're looking at LinkedIn, they're going to Facebook, they're
Hmm.
They're
going,
going to
you,
Facebook. Absolutely.
like,
Absolutely.
I, I know when I was on the MSP side, we had a business we were protecting that suffered a business email compromise attack. The owner of the business posted on Facebook that she was going to Cancun for 2 weeks, right? And that got posted. The threat actors did just what you talked about. They registered a domain name that looked almost like this
Hmm.
company's name. They inserted, I think they had an I in their name and they made it a one, doing that kind of
Yep.
typo squatting. And when that CEO went on vacation, they then had targeted through LinkedIn who the CFO of the company was.
Yep.
And this person went on vacation right around, I want to say it was like at Christmas, January, we'll say, right after W-2s are starting to become necessary. And this one, they impersonated the CEO and said, "Hey, I'm on vacation. I know I shouldn't be working, but can you send me all the W-2s? I want to review them when I on the flight down." And sure enough, the CFO fell for it because they used that OSINT. Um,
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
And
So
talking about the
you can
next step, grooming.
go ahead.
So the word grooming, don't think of it as what your standard grooming is. What they try to do is incite an emotion. Uh, they want you to have an emotional reaction, via emergency, stating an emergency and or building trust, and those two things can are risk. Building trust takes time. Uh, Emergency doesn't. So you see a
You make a
variety of
great
these tactics.
you make a great point. Um, in some cases that we've seen, they've groomed and attacked businesses within a day, 2 days. Some of them do what I call the long con, right? They're gathering that data, they're grooming that person that they want to go after for 2 to 3 months. They're building that level of trust because as soon as they have that trust of that target, they're going to ask for an exchange of information. And it can be something as simple as they've been conversing with them for 2 months. Hey, I've changed my ACH number. Can you go ahead and update your system with that? Well, that ACH number coming from the bad actor is replacing a valid with theirs. And then from there, they use hey, we have an invoice due. Can you please pay it? And so this is where, and we're seeing this a lot in the accounting side of the house in most businesses, is they're wiring out that money without a valid phone verification to whoever they're sending it to. Um, if I could counsel and recommend one thing that you have your accounting people do, anytime you're sending out large amounts of money, and you can determine what your large amount is start it with a phone call to the person you're sending it to. Hey, I'm getting ready to process this. I want to verify that you sent this.
yeah.
That
And
simple little step could probably save quite a bit of money being sent out to offshore accounts very easily. So that would be my one key recommendation for you guys to focus on with your businesses is let's phone verify before I send anybody any money.
yeah, like and Bruce, I'll chime in here just to anecdote at Huntress. So we're a cybersecurity firm, but one of the things we do is we go to show conferences on a regular basis. Well, when we go to one of these conferences, we're usually having to pay a significant amount of money, $100,000 or more sometimes for some of these sponsorships. We had an instance where our accounts payable person was targeted in a business email compromise. Somebody had taken over the vendor whose event we were going to and had done some grooming, right? Talking back and forth. Hey, we have this coming up. Oh, we're going to have a new bill for you. And then they sent that new invoice that, $100,000 and we have a new
Mhm.
ACH part. Our person has gone through security awareness training, so she knew what to kind of look for, and she did think that the emails were a little weird, but she was like, okay, this whatever, Jeremy, I'll say it was Jeremy was on vacation and busy, so maybe they wrote it quickly, right? And she justified it, but we did have that process of do a phone call on it, and so when they said, hey, she called the person and was like, hey, Jeremy, I got your email about changing banking. I'm just doing this kind of out of bounds and making sure and what I mean by out of bounds is, she didn't go off the phone number that was on Jeremy's email. She had it stored previously and called the person, and the person was like, no, I'm actually been having email problems for the past like 3 weeks and not getting all my emails. And so it was that verification that, was key because they are relying on that. They want people to move fast at the end of the day. I
Yes.
mean, I think that's the key part on it.
Well, and you hit a stat earlier in the intro that I think is going to be increased tenfold, especially with the latest news that came out over the last week of the 3 billion um, Americans that had their data released in the huge national products database leak.
Yep.
And that's got everybody, and not just businesses alone, but personal. So I see the nefarious actors going after the elderly who are not as technically savvy as us. I'll say it that way. Um, but they're going to have such things as names, email addresses, date of birth, social security numbers. I feel that the grooming is going to go after and use the emotions with the elderly of I need $10,000 because blah, 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 blah. They're going to send it. And so we as security individuals and IT people in the world have to educate our elders more and more of question everything that you do on the internet, on your email. I feel that number is going to roll higher, to be quite honest.
No, because it's information, right? It goes right back up into that identifying a target. Now they have more information they can use to craft that message specifically to them. Um, and leverage these regular data leaks that happen, right? They can start to
And,
play into that.
and I'd like to add something, not just ACH or wire transfers, but also those apps like Cash App, Venmo, buying gift cards. Those are, if you hear those, start asking questions. Why? Because those are not normal avenues of payment
Right.
for
And
most.
Cash App actually is involved in they were sued because they were breached from 2018 to 2021. They were breached and they reached a settlement earlier this year and are paying out each user affected with credit monitoring, the normal avenues of stuff,
Mhm.
but a $2,500 payout too to each user. So if you use Cash App, you should investigate the breach settlement if you were affected. I highly recommend getting what you were due.
Mhm.
But there's lots of news, and we've got a few to share with you all. Some large ones, obviously, but
Yeah, bad actors tend to target larger organizations, which is what is generally highlighted in the news. However, more and more small to mid-sized businesses are being affected by this. This isn't a new concept either. It's been going on for 10 plus years. But the good news is that security measures are becoming more tactical and effective against fighting these attacks. I'm going to launch another quick poll here. Do you know somebody, or have you ever been a victim of a BEC attack? Okay, that
Ugh.
is
Yes.
startling. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
I'm going to share these results with you all in just a moment. So 85% of you all have been a victim or know somebody that's been a victim. So that's pretty crazy.
No,
Um,
and it talks about this. I mean, I
Yeah.
know the next slide's gonna show kind of the Zoom PayPal
mhm,
um
Mhm.
in
yeah.
the attack one, right? Which I'll talk about. But like one of the things is these are headlines are always great because they make the news but you have to be a big number normally to make that news, right? So
Mhm.
Zoom, $30.8 million in losses from um a business email compromise attack, right? Where they transferred that much money. I will honestly say most what I'll call small businesses probably are never even going to earn $30.8 million over the lifetime of their company potentially. But I think the key thing here is you can see where you know, the CFO had to resign, their stock price dropped by 14%. That's significant to a company owned by PayPal like this. But I'll tell another one that happened. It was a small so down in Louisiana, they're on the coast supporting the oil rigs and things like that. The business, small husband wife shop with 5 or 6 employees, and their whole business was welding trailers to, get parts and make them so that they can get the oil rig parts out there doing trailers for trucks. And a somebody compromised a upstream vendor of theirs, and they ended up sending $50,000 of invoices to a fraudulent account like we talked about. Well, that trailer company, the guy was like, yeah, I like that's
Life
his
savings.
income for the yeah, that was his income for the year.
Mhm.
Like that, so he was like, I had to pay that. I had to go back to my other vendor who still I owed $50,000 to. I couldn't. They were unable to recover that, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to figure out: do I have to lay people off? Do I dip into my life savings? How is that going to impact?" And so these have real
Mhm.
world effects on businesses because they aren't
From top
always
down,
covered.
bottom
Yeah,
up. Yeah,
exactly.
you're absolutely right. And while we've got three to show that have large money losses, I think it's key to notate that yes, these nefarious actors love going after the big dollar guys. It's the long con for them with those types of situations. They're going to go after the small to medium, your grandparents, everybody that that love, especially with this large breach that just happened. Because if they can get 10 people paying 10 grand versus SMB to enterprise 1 million, they're going to take the small fish because those small fish accumulate very quickly. So it's a quick and easy buck for them. And we've
Mhm.
got a stat later on in the presentation that when I tell you how much they pay for a service to go after you all, us, not just you all, us in general, it's kind of mind boggling what they pay versus their reward, if you will.
Let's hop into the MGM resorts
Yeah.
incident.
Yeah.
This one was a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So late last year, 100 million in GM. Uh, Basically, this ransomware group, Scattered Spider, uh, impersonated, you know, the staff, IT help desk, and they were able to gain credentials, get keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
Um,
And they actually went after a new employee. And it's key to note that your employees, and we just lost our our leader of the webinar, so hopefully we're still on with people. I don't know what to do here.
Sorry, guys. I'm still here.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, whew.
Whew.
She scared the nerds, y'all. Um,
Exactly.
they went
but
after
yeah,
a
that.
brand new employee, and
Yeah.
used
Mhm.
emotions and impersonated once they stole his credentials, impersonated the guy,
Yeah,
and
and
used
this
emotions
was a
to get
multi-day attack.
credentials.
This
Yes.
ransomware went on for several days and ended up getting the attention of the FBI and the White House.
Well,
So
well,
Yeah, it was
and what's
pretty
interesting
large.
is this attack, shows how business email compromise can be used for next steps. It's not always just
Hmm.
about stealing,
Right.
convincing somebody to send a bad invoice. This was business email compromise with social engineering to
Social
get into a
engineering.
ransomware, right? So
yep.
it's multiple stages, and that's the other thing to be aware of on this.
And it's key to note also this particular hack, if you will. This is actually one of the first reported instances. So you typically have your separate hacker groups, and I'm using air quotes there, that go after a target by themselves without partnering with another group. This was actually one of the first reported instances that we know of publicly where the Scatter Spider group uh, partnered with another ransomware group that worked with another OSN group. So it was three groups that came together,
Hmm.
which was kind of scary. But now we're seeing this more and more, and it kind of makes sense uh,
Well, it
where they're going
it
with it.
yeah, well, it makes sense because the thing that people sometimes forget, and Bruce, Jeremy, you and I, but we all know this, is that these are businesses on the cybercrime side. Like these are
Oh yeah.
actual businesses. Like they
Yeah,
have professionals. They have HR people who are out on the dark web, recruiting people to work for
recruiting
them.
people to work for them. Yes.
They
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
they have they have training books for their employees how to run one of these BEC scams,
Oh yeah.
right?
And
Um,
they've taken those playbooks, and we'll talk about it a little bit more here a little bit later. AI is the scariest thing on the planet right now. It's the biggest buzzword
Hmm.
for sure, but they're using AI to input a small amount of data, and they're turning it over to the AI, the artificial intelligence engine, and it's running the attack. So they basically have to put some data in, and it goes. And their return on investment is a thousandfold at that point because they're not having to do as much work.
Gentlemen, if
So
I'm not mistaken, this was like one of the first reported and successful ransomware as a service
it was.
attacks. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
So ransomware as a service, they pay per month something like less than $50 to have access to a AI backed attack engine that they input data into, and it goes out, and obviously they paid $50 for 5,000 email addresses to go after at MGM Grand. It obviously paid out for them.
Mhm.
So
I do want to hop
AI
over
is very
to
scary.
the
So
city.
so so we're talking about MGM Grand, but here in Lexington, and we're here in Lexington, Kentucky, at least the NetGang folks, we actually got here locally at the Lexington Fayette County Urban Government Community Action Council. In this case, this was an insider attack assisted or insider assisted attack. The nefarious actor was a cousin of a lady that worked at the Community Action Council. And so she got a target list. He started going after the people in accounting. Long story short, the lady from accounting, without any kind of phone verification, wired out $4 million in federal rent assistance to an account in the Cayman Islands. How they got caught was actually kind of funny because this lady actually opened the Cayman account in her name, not her cousin's name. They could have used a fake name. But that is how the FBI backtracked and caught them. I have a little inside scoop because I work friends with one of the IT guys there. So I know a little bit more of the backstory that I just shared with you. But we were able to get back the Fayette County was actually able to get back most of the $4 million. I think they had wired out 200 grand before uh, they caught everything and got started getting the money back. But it hit home. It was right here in Lexington, Kentucky. So it's no longer what if I get a BEC? What if I get compromised? It's when am I going to get compromised, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so you want to take and understand the common causes and the trends that we're sharing with you here today, and put controls in place in not only your business life but your personal life to stop some of this
Mhm.
from happening.
Yeah, so let's hop into some common causes. more than 90% of all successful cyber attacks start with a phishing email.
And I mean, that's just why. It's because email is such a ubiquitous tool at this point. It's a standard
Mhm.
of communication, and
Yep.
it's a great way to start to do it. And it's low cost. I mean, there's basically no cost to send out thousands of emails. I mean, you can buy, we talked about the data breach that was just with 3 billion records, right? You get one of those on the dark web forums. They're selling them at pennies a record type of prices at times, depending on how old they are. But there's a list that you can go out there and blast out
Mhm.
as if you were using MailChimp to,
Right.
send out a list to, are you interested in my product? It's just a different product at that
Yeah.
point.
MailChimp, Mailgun, all those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
So,
there's,
I alluded to the National Products Database leak. The big one right now is PII data theft. Um, you know, the transactions are involving. Let's call it what it is. Whether it's social engineering, you're using your work email at your home email address, your passwords are the same. Change those passwords up. Stolen credentials. That's a big one, especially with the phishing, getting them to go to a fake Office 365 login, for example. I think this might be a good place to actually, we should have a demo. I think we should show them. What do you guys think?
Yeah, let's do that.
Absolutely.
But I will just point out, we're talking stolen credentials. I'm going to walk through the demo here. But like, please don't use your passwords. I am sure NetGain, if you're one of their customers, you've heard it multiple times. But use a password manager. Use a different password for every site, and don't. The threat actors are going to guess that if you use summer, '01 on one site, they're going to try summer '02 on your next site. Like,
Yeah.
you might think that all of they understand you're like, oh, I don't want to remember these passwords, so they're going to try variations on it. Like,
Don't do what I call a typo squat. Don't do a row of keys up and down. That is the after summer '01 exclamation mark or summer '01 123 exclamation mark. The very
Or
next things
password.
that they're doing is they're doing a row of keys, a
yep,
row of keys, a row of keys. Make them unique. Use passphrases if your applications or your websites that you go to allow it. If they offer dual factor authentication, do some MFA. It will save your life.
yeah, definitely. So sorry, that was just my PSA. I had to get in on stolen credentials before we move to it, because like, that is a key thing they use. All right, Ashley, let's move
yeah,
over to a demo, and let
yeah,
me kind
I'm excited for you all to see this because it really shocked me and kind of blew my mind. So let's hop into that.
so this is going to be a demo. I'll tell Ashley to click through on this, but this is a threat actor. One of the tools out there is Evil Jinx. It's actually a free tool that they can go download off of GitHub, a repository out there. So, the first thing they have to do though is they have to enable it. So, Ashley, if you click next on that button for me, and now, they are creating their website link. So Evil Jinx lets them start to create a website that they're going to fish you on. So if you click next from here, now, what happens. Okay, so they've generated on their computer a URL, and then let's go next and look at this phishing email. And this is going to be kind of standard. You're going to get an email that looks legit. I mean, that Microsoft branding looks like a legit Microsoft page. You're going to get a message. Your cloud storage is almost full. What they're trying to do is that sense of urgency, make you move fast, make you think, not necessarily think about it. Now, if you start to look at this email, you can see like up there who it's from, Microsoft at notificationservices.org. There's a clue. Oh, maybe this isn't legit. But
Okay?
if you're moving quickly, you're not thinking, you're going to then, oh, I could upgrade my storage or remove files. And there's that link to manage my storage. So I'm going to go click that because I'm a user who's busy. And I click that, and now I'm brought to this page. Now the login up there, you'll see it almost looks like it's a Microsoft page, login.m365online online. Okay, that's suspicious. Maybe you would
Yep.
catch that, but it looks pretty close. And so at this point, click next for me. I'm going to start to enter in my email because, hey, I'm at a Microsoft site. This looks legitimate. I'm then going to go put in my password. But, you heard Bruce and Jeremy talk about, yeah, you need MFA. Well, click next. And suddenly I'm prompted for my MFA. And this is using Microsoft's Authenticator app. You should totally be using this or a similar way where, it's number generation. I have to go type in that 13 on my app so that they can't just bomb me and make me accept. Like, super, this is really secure. I've got it all right. Hit next. Well, suddenly I get taken to a blank login page. As a user, I'm like, that's kind of weird. Microsoft, they messed up again. As a user, I'm going to re-enter credentials. We've all had technical glitches. Now you'll see up top, that's the real Microsoft site. So if I logged in, I would then be back into my account. But what happened there, we're going to click next. On the back end, the threat actor got all of this gobbledygook. Click the next button for me here, Ashley. And this is what's called a session token. So what you might not realize is every time you log into a website, you have these things called cookies that are in your browser, and they basically are ways for the back end plumbing of the internet to talk to each other and pass credentials so you're not having to do passwords all the times. So there's a bunch of code. Well, what has happened is the threat actor has gotten that code down into his evil jinx machine. If
And
you click, yep, go
got
Bruce.
a quick question for you, Ethan. Well, where did
Oh,
we go?
uh, ask it anyways, and then we'll get back to that page. But
Yes. So when you clicked onto the MFA and passed the token for
yep,
your MFA, that's your security token, that was passed and that's in that
That's
gobbledygook
that
string,
is in that
correct?
gob exactly. That string has not only your username, password. Now it's encoded, so you can't see it. If you looked at it with eyes, you're not going to see it, but it's in there with the MFA token session as well. So it has not only your username, password, it has your session that MFA token. So that becomes a completely valid communication process. And so
Hmm.
this is what the threat actor is going to do now. They're going to, if you hit next for me, Ashley, they're going to open up a web page and go to the real login page, right? So they're going to login.microsoft. But instead of entering in a username password like you or I would normally do, click next for me. They're going to go use a tool called they're going to grab that session token. So here's this gobbledygook. You can see, if you look closely, you can see name as a field highlighted in there. You can see an expiration date, a value. So this is all of the data in there that the threat actor has grabbed and is ready to use. So they're going to copy all of this, click next, and they're going to go to what's called a cookie editor. So this is a browser add-in. So just like you might be having add-in to, for your password manager, because we were telling you to use a password manager. Maybe some of you has a browser add-in to go shopping at your favorite shopping site. Please don't have those on your work computers. That's a whole nother discussion. I'll let Bruce and Jeremy yell at you about those. Uh, but it is a tool. Browser add-in is just a tool to make your life easier. Well, programmers need to edit cookies. Threat actors need to edit their cookies. So he's going
Right.
to edit his cookie. He's going to go next. And what he's going to do is going to paste all that gobbledygook into his cookie editor. Going to click next. And what happens is, boom, as soon as he hits next and refreshes the screen, he's into the Microsoft 365 account. You'll see in the upper right, it says HD. That's my hacker account that they have now logged into. They didn't have to put in a password. They didn't have to know the MFA. So
It went straight
this is,
through.
they went straight through because they were able to get it. And from here on the left-hand side, they could click Outlook, be reading this person's Outlook. They could navigate to their OneDrive, right? Um, it gets called out in the next slide. If you click next for me, Ashley, that over on the left-hand side, you might also see that there is A right above the blue icon for Outlook. That's administrator. This particular account was a global admin. And Jeremy or Bruce, you want to talk about some of the problems of a global
Yeah,
admin?
so the minute that they have a global admin account, they can then go in and start creating applications to pass data from your environment to them. They can create accounts, they can change your account, they could change everybody's account so no one gets email. Having global administrator rights is the keys to the kingdom, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking
And so
change passwords. Yeah.
one of the things that you need to focus on in your Office 365 environment is limit the number of global administrators that you have. 2 is good, 3 is more than enough. Don't have more than 3 global admins. I highly recommend not having that.
All right, let's go next. I think we're basically at the end of my demo of how they took over. Oh, I forgot. I showed how Huntress. So we Huntress, we have a managed identity threat detection response tool. That's why I'm on this call with you all. So when Huntress, you have Huntress in, we step in. So click the next button here. We create a report that shows, hey, we see session token theft. That's what this kind of attack is called. When they grab that attacker in the middle, they grab that MFA, session token theft. And we can call it out that a threat actor has, because what we'll see is that the threat actor logs in from one location with that session ID, and then that session ID is replayed. And we're like, hey, you shouldn't be able to use that from 2 different IP addresses.
Hey, Ethan, you make a good point. So let's say this is the perfect case where, let's say, hacker hits here in Lexington as
Yep,
his home address where he's accessing and working via email.
yep.
The way that you all alert is if that nefarious actor is, say, in Bangladesh and
In
logging in at the
Bangladesh.
same time and passing credentials, you guys immediately flag because of that
Yep,
and
exactly.
isolate.
Or yep, and so that then happens. Hit next button. We're going to our SOC team will come in here to our portal, and we're going to, revoke access and disable. So that signs the user out of all devices. That revokes all those session tokens. So if they stole one, those no longer work, and we disable that in 365. And that team is going 24/7 for us. So we are a follow the sun staffing model. Our team is in the UK, US, Australia. Also, I said the UK. We do have some in Ireland. They'd probably get mad if I said they were
They
only
might
in the
get mad
UK.
a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's one of the main reasons we partner with you all because our team at NetGain, we're approximately 12 people, including our boss, who does occasionally take Huntress tickets. We try to keep him from not having to do that, but if we ever get busy enough, he's got the skill set to handle it. So we're strong from the top to the bottom, but we all like to sleep because the
yeah.
majority of us are on EST. Jeremy's in Arkansas, he's on CST. We love having a 24/7 SOC analyst team backing us up. It's an awesome thing.
Yep. And then Ashley, if you click next, um, and that will then show remediation. So then we give NetGain the tools to further kick that threat actor out of all of the environment. So that's kind of the value that Huntress provides to NetGain.
And before we move off of this slide, I will say that this is in real time. This is not an hour after the attempted connection. It's we're getting a ticket as soon as Hunter sees it and alerts on it. We're getting a ticket created. We're working the ticket. We're going through after they've isolated. We're doing our forensic work. We're rotating credentials, enforcing MFA if they didn't have it, and the number of businesses that don't have MFA enabled is going down. I'd like to see a trend further down, but we're remediating this compromised account within less than an hour total. Whereas, and we'll talk about the rollout, how easy it is. We're getting results within an hour, and we've seen instances where they didn't have Huntress MDR 365, and there was an admin account that had been compromised going back to February. Within an hour of us rolling out the tool, we found out he was compromised and we took steps to remediate. and forensically, did our work and made sure there was no data exfil. But it's how do you know that somebody's not in your stuff right now without a tool in place that does it?
Yep.
We're going to talk about some cyber threat trends. I'm going to toss this over to Jeremy
Yeah,
to
sure.
hopefully go through
Uh,
this.
so we all have email we've mainly talked about, but there's other types of communication that these attacks occur over. You got smishing, your text message, your vishing, your voice calls, and also through various apps. You have Teams, Zoom, WhatsApp, uh, Discord, even. Uh, also, which has been in the news lately for getting hacked. Um, and again, we've discussed, we have multi-channel attacks, these combined attacks that involve like an invoice fraud, or the executive impersonation uh, tied to and bundled with ransomware or some type of malware. And we've also alluded to, the hacker tools, AI being in the spotlight, being a buzzword. Hackers have a chat GPT like tool called, well, one of them is called Worm GPT. And, they are able to use that and launch these BEC attacks at scale for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, and when you say pennies on the dollar, I alluded to it earlier. The last report that I saw that talked about the cost of Worm GPT is they can buy a 30-day subscription, and it's subscription based, just like Office 365, for 5,000 email addresses for less than $30.
We'd
Yeah.
like to know if you currently engage in any kind of security awareness training in your organization. Okay. The majority of you do.
Okay,
So that's
good.
fabulous.
Nice.
Great. So how do you start to defend and protect your organizations against BCs? You very simply can start with a security awareness training. You want to build a strong cybersecurity culture within your environment. For example, a business that I engaged with did not have any type of cybersecurity culture. It was the wild, wild west. And as an IT administrator, a daily investigation of I gave my credentials to someone got old really quickly. Whereas in an environment that has a great culture, do I mind when the users come up to me and say, hey, I have this email, it looks suspicious, would you like to look at it? That's building the cybersecurity culture. You also want to engage and follow some of the best practices depending on your vertical. HIPAA has different compliancy and regulations that you have to follow versus financial. So know what those are. At the minimum, secure passwords, MFA, wherever you can implement it, specifically email. And just teach them to scrutinize and question everything. It's okay to trust, but verify, if you will, almost X-File-ish. And then everybody, and here's where I'm going to say antivirus. I said it AV on the other day, and they're like, what's AV? Make sure you have a great antivirus. What you can then set on top of that a managed detection and risk and response tool and solution that uses AI, has a SOC analyst backed team to um, review things that look suspicious that AI says, hey, this looks like something we've not ever seen before. Can you guys take a look at it and escalate it in real time?
Yeah.
It
So you may,
One other thing, just as a best practice, just to call out, we mentioned it earlier, is those policies and procedures. Like have train your people to call, right? And those are key things to have those policies to how do you handle money transfers.
so you may ask, what exactly is this managed detection and response tool? How does it work? So The managed and detection and response tool is basically a combination of technology and human expertise that's focusing on detecting, analyzing, responding, assisting to threats that sneak past such things as preventative tools. Antivirus is good. It's looking for things that are coming in or may be sitting there dormant. There could be an executable from a PDF reader that has an embedded malware. Antivirus is not going to alert on that till it executes. Huntress looks for things that are artifacts that are sitting there that they know from experience and investigations that they are suspicious and malwarish, and we get tickets to remove those occasionally. But if we can go ahead and move on. Next slide, focusing on M365. When we roll that out, it's less than a 5-minute rollout where we map from the Huntress console into your M365 tenant. Within an hour, it's mapping all your users. We're getting logs from M365 fed into Huntress, and we're getting alerts. I alluded to the account that was compromised for months. We knew within an hour. Within 10 minutes at another business, the CEO was being phished, and we were getting notifications that they're trying to get through the CEO's account. And so we were able to take steps there to secure that too. But it starts with threat detection. It then moves into, okay, are there such things as suspicious logins, suspicious inbox rules, weird privilege escalations? Betty in accounting shouldn't be elevated to global admin just to do her job. That is something that we're going to alert on and take action on. That's led by human-led investigations from the Huntress SOC analyst team, along with guys like Jeremy and I. We are known as the diggers. We like to dig and figure out how they're doing it. But we'll investigate an incident, and we'll get an alert from Huntress. Again, our team gets the alert. We very quickly jump on it and work on it. One of the things that is imperative is the communication. We do get the report. There's easy to follow remediation steps, tried and true remediation steps. And we're working as our team. If we get alerted on a user that is identified as possibly being compromised, we're communicating not only through email with the technical contact we typically on our side, we call direct. It's trust but verify. And so we're communicating with the technical leader at the client of there's this going on, we're cleaning this up here, we'll advise you of any data exfil. We may need to do further forensics works. We'll let them know about that there, but then we'll remediate. And a lot of the remediation is automated on identity isolation. We simply have to approve the assisted remediation, and there's manual remediation that we go do, but we checklist all that and it goes into our ticketing system. That's a lot of action, but that is basically 15 minutes or less remediation for the majority of our Huntress M365 alerts. There are cases where we've had to go in and do further investigations that were a few hours worth of work, but for the most part, we're remediating in 15 minutes or less.
Mm-hmm. I do think it's important to point out that the secret sauce here is the teams. It involves that human element. You've got the advanced technology and the AI going into it, but it does require that human element. So MDR, I'd say, is technology, but it's a managed service.
And it's teams who understand your business, where you are, right. I think that's the other key part. It's not just, some large corporation who doesn't have that interaction as well is the key part of what you get from partnering with a NetGain.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we've got about 5 minutes left for questions. I did get a couple in the chat. What is the one key thing to implement to lessen my chance of suffering a BEC attack?
I mean, I'm of
Security
two
awareness
minds.
training.
Yeah, I was going to say security awareness training honestly
Security
is,
awareness training.
yeah, like I part of me goes, oh, MFA, but like no, security awareness training, because
Yeah.
like I think that's critical. Creating that
Yeah.
culture of awareness, right? It's not just like click check a box. It's really having a culture that understands it and will tell each other, hey, I saw this phishing email. I think this came through. Beware, right? Like that's a great culture where people are having those conversations.
And to add to
And
that,
if
go
oh, go
ahead,
ahead.
Bruce.
I was just gonna, share a quick story of if you're technical, take a technical security awareness training. However, factor in your lowest common denominator in your enterprise environment at home, your grandparents. Have it teach it at their knowledge level. My friend always says, Bruce, you're technical. When you teach, you usually teach to people that are your same technical expertise. So you teach like Coach Cal, back when Coach Cal coached Kentucky. However, some of your users are the kindergarten basketball team. So you have to word it and train it so a kindergarten basketball team would understand it. So what I'm saying is take a security awareness training that teaches at the level that everybody can understand, not just your technical people.
And I was going to add, it's not just uh, your organization. It starts with the individual, and include social media awareness into that, because these threat actors are looking not just at your organization but at your individual, yourself or your employees, and they will message you through social media. That's part of a tactic, gaining trust. So always be aware what you say, what you do, and what you post online.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've got another one. We've heard that DNS tools like SPF and DMARC help. Is that true?
It's an actual requirement now to be on Office 365 to get certain check marks on your compliancy audit. You should definitely have SPF, DMARC, and DKIM. And your DKIM should be configured not just to alert. You should have some type of action where if it doesn't pass it, it's going into quarantine or it's getting rejected. There are strong controls like that you can put in place.
I've got one last question. Says, I have a very small business. How likely is it that my business is going to be a target?
So
It's already a target.
yeah, I was going to say it's
Yeah,
already a target, and one of the reasons is because we talked about those cyber crimes, criminals. Well, enterprise has a huge budget; they can harden it. So if you think about a burglar robbing a house, right? They're not going to go necessarily rob the house with all the fancy security detection. They're going to try and move on down the street to the one that has the old locks on it, and that's
hmm
the equivalent. Most small businesses can't afford enterprise class security tools. And that's where NetGain comes in handy of to provide, tools that are equivalent, but at a lower price point.
that's right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was our last question. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. If you have any other questions, please reach out. Our security team is here to help. Um, so, yeah,
Yeah.
anything you need, just reach
Yes.
out.
Look forward to helping you all secure your environments. No
Yeah,
matter how big or small you are, we're
That's
here to
right.
help.
exactly.
Awesome. Thank you all very much, and I hope to see you on our next webinar. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.